Mafia made a fatal mistake when they tried to kill the president, unaware he would be the one to kill them all. What was supposed to be a normal diplomatic trip between two leaders who don't even like each other turns into pure chaos when a powerful crime group shoots down Air Force One, leaving the world thinking they are dead and forcing them to survive on their own in a dangerous foreign country, without security, without advisors, and without the power they once had. Hunted by assassins and surrounded by betrayal from someone they trusted, the president, who was once seen as just a former action star, is pushed into a real fight for his life. And step by step, as the attacks grow more brutal and the stakes get higher, he changes from a man who gives speeches into a man who fights back. The movie begins in Buñol, Spain at the famous tomato throwing festival, La Tomatina, where thousands of people fill the streets, laughing and celebrating as red tomatoes fly through the air. In the middle of this, a MI6 agent named Noel Bisset appears to be covering the event for the media. However, in reality, she is working in a secret joint operation with CIA agents to capture a dangerous Russian arms dealer named Viktor Gradov.
No, we're on a mission, right?
Okay, easy. Keep our eyes peeled for Gradov.
Seriously, Coop.
The agents spot a man who matches Victor's description and attempt to confirm his identity using facial recognition technology. Noel moves toward the suspected target along with other undercover agents, but they quickly realize something is wrong. There is not just one Victor lookalike in the crowd, but several, making identification almost impossible.
Guys, we got 2 potential Gradovs on site.
3. Still no facial recall.
Understanding the urgency of the situation, Noel orders access to a powerful surveillance system, Echelon, and a man permits the use of the Echelon servers for only 60 seconds, enough time to scan and identify the real Victor. Suddenly, a suspicious van nearby draws attention, and within seconds, 3 armed people come out and attack. They overpower some agents and seize control of the Echelon servers in another vehicle. Chaos erupts as gunfire breaks out in the middle of the festival. Noel fights bravely, taking down several attackers despite the confusion around her. She pushes forward toward the attackers who have already completed their task on the servers. Determined to stop them, she reaches for the van, but one of the attackers shoots her, leaving her severely wounded. Moments later, the attackers detonate the agent's van in a massive explosion, destroying evidence and killing the remaining team members. As Noel lies on the ground, struggling for breath, she looks up and finally sees the real Victor standing on a nearby rooftop. In London, Prime Minister Sam Clarke wakes up and turns on the morning news, which highlights the arrival of America's newly elected president, Will Derringer, who was a successful action movie star, to meet Prime Minister Sam. And together they plan to attend an important NATO meeting in Trieste, Italy. During a morning walk, Will receives his daily briefing and learns about the tragic MI6 and CIA operation in Spain as he is informed that Noel is missing and is presumed dead.
Team leader Noel Bisset is missing. I'm so sorry.
The following day, the reporters gather as President Will arrives with his family at the palace. Inside, Will's wife, Kat Derringer, advises him to be respectful towards Sam despite their strained relationship. Will still feels resentment because Sam supported his political opponent during the election. However, his assistant, Simone Bradshaw, encourages him, and soon they move toward their official engagements. At the same time, Prime Minister Sam receives a detailed briefing from his assistant, Quincy Harrington, who explains that NATO once attempted to eliminate Victor years ago, but failed.
An airstrike destroyed his whole facility. Entering plant with the help of a NATO task force.
On the other hand, Simone Bradshaw updates Will in the car about the failed operation in Spain and confirms that both the CIA and MI6 agents were completely wiped out. Finally, Will and Sam meet and exchange formal greetings, but tension is obvious in their expressions. They talk clearly annoyed by each other. However, Will briefly references the failed operation in Spain, then changes his focus to the NATO meeting agenda. He subtly urges Sam to avoid difficult media questions, especially from journalist Jack Gordon.
NATO, clean energy. No questions from Jack Gordon.
Soon after, both leaders step in front of a large crowd of journalists and flashing cameras. They present themselves as confident partners and outline their cooperation on a new initiative focused on advanced pebble bed reactor technology, describing it as a major step towards sustainable power and economic growth for both nations. The atmosphere appears friendly on the surface, but tension remains visible in their expressions and body language. Many reporters seem more excited about President Will's celebrity past than the political agenda, and some journalists even shift attention toward Prime Minister Sam's personal life, questioning why he is still single. When President Will responds to the personal question, Sam, clearly irritated, redirects attention and invites journalist Jack Gordon to raise his inquiry. Jack brings up the failed mission in Spain and presses for clarification about the tragic operation. Prime Minister Sam answers cautiously, emphasizing that sensitive intelligence matters are best kept confidential for national security reasons.
For a reason. That's all I'm going to say on that.
We must do better. We will do better.
However, another reporter brings up the controversial Echelon servers and their use in monitoring personal data across global networks. Just then, President Will publicly warns hostile forces against challenging their nations, projecting strength and dominance. After the press conference ends, tension escalates behind closed doors. Will confronts Sam for allowing Jack Gordon inquiries despite his request. Both leaders are frustrated because they failed to appear united and friendly, which had been the entire purpose of the joint appearance. Their assistants quickly step in with a strategy to repair the damage. Quincy proposes that Prime Minister Sam travel aboard Air Force One alongside President Will for the NATO summit in Italy, believing that shared travel would symbolize unity. At first, both leaders reject the suggestion due to arrogance and personal resentment. However, Simone and Quincy persist, explaining that a public display of unity would strengthen their political image and benefit them. Eventually, President Will formally offers Sam a seat on Air Force One, and after brief hesitation, Sam accepts.
Take the win. Take the flight.
Mr. Prime Minister, fly with me aboard Air Force One.
Soon afterward, President Will and Prime Minister Sam arrive together at the airport and board Air Force One side by side. The media captures images of them walking in apparent harmony, and the public responds positively to this symbolic partnership. Once inside the aircraft, Sam quietly reviews the Spain mission report, which reveals that Noel and the entire team have been killed. The confirmation weighs heavily on him, and he reflects silently on the cost of leadership and sacrifice. Just then, President Will invites Sam to join a video call with his family. Sam interacts warmly and respectfully, showing a nice side that surprises Will. The president appears impressed and encourages him to reveal this image in public. Talking about the family, Will believes being a family man strengthens a leader's public appeal. As their talking continues, Sam admits that he has never watched Will's action films because he prefers serious cinema.
All right, I get it. You don't like my movies.
I've never seen your movies. No, it's because I like actual cinema.
I want to work with Wes Anderson or Bong Joon-ho? Of course I do.
The atmosphere shifts again when Sam reminds Will of his background as an actor rather than a traditional politician. Before the tension can escalate further, we see an onboard chef enter to serve food. Without warning, the chef begins attacking crew members and security personnel, revealing himself as an assassin. He then secretly reactivates the aircraft's radar signature, making Air Force One visible to external tracking systems. This signal is immediately detected by Victor's attackers, who adjust their aircraft's course toward the Air Force One plane. As the danger grows, President Will confronts Sam about meeting with his former political opponent. Sam defends the meeting by explaining that long-standing friendships do not disappear because of elections. Will, visibly irritated, accuses Sam of benefiting from elite connections within Parliament. Sam responds firmly, detailing his difficult journey from working multiple jobs to earning admission to Cambridge and eventually rising through dedication rather than privilege. In the middle of this heated exchange, Will suddenly notices an unidentified aircraft approaching their plane at high speed, signaling that a far greater threat is closing in. Moments later, the approaching enemy aircraft locks onto Air Force One and launches multiple drones toward it. Within seconds, explosions tear through the plane and it suffers massive damage. Inside the plane, the chef moves suspiciously through the plane. When Prime Minister Sam watches the blood on his back and realizing he is caught, the chef pulls out a knife and rushes toward both leaders with deadly intent. However, a security agent reacts instantly, tackling the attacker and pushing him away before he can strike. Realizing the plane is seconds away from total destruction, the agent forces Sam and President Will toward the rear section where emergency parachutes are stored. However, the traitorous chef manages to reach first, grab a parachute for himself, sets fire to the remaining parachutes to prevent anyone else from escaping, and jumps from the aircraft without hesitation. Despite the flames and smoke, the security agent manages to grab 2 intact parachutes and, understanding the situation, he orders them to jump off the plane as they are going down in Belarusian airspace and to find their safe house in Poland. Confirming the address to the safe house, the security agent pushes them out of the failing plane, choosing to stay behind and sacrificing his own life. Within 2 hours, global news networks broadcast the shocking story that Air Force One has crashed.
Devastating footage of Air Force One. Clark are presumed dead. An emergency session of Parliament is convening to was sworn in as acting president in Trieste, Italy.
Governments and citizens around the world believe that both leaders have died in the disaster. Back in the forest, Sam regains consciousness and finds Bill hanging awkwardly from a tree branch, tangled in parachute cords. They both argue with each other when President Will attempts to contact his wife using his phone to confirm that he is alive, but Sam quickly stops him. He firmly explains that any signal could expose their location to the enemies who may still be tracking them. To ensure their safety, Sam knocks the phone from Will's hand.
I have to assume whoever wants you dead is listening to communicate with us. Now put that down!
Would you just help me down, for Christ's sakes, please?
After freeing Will from the parachute harness, they both move deeper into the forest. Eventually, they reach a clearing where they see the wreckage of the plane completely destroyed, with no visible survivors. Meanwhile, the American Vice President Elizabeth Kirk assumes temporary authority and takes control of the situation. Determined to uncover the truth, she decides to activate Echelon, hoping it might detect signs that Sam and Will survived.
Alpha, Echo, Bravo.
Biometrics confirmed.
However, when she does it at the same time, Victor's associate, Arthur Hammond, manages to hack into Echelon's system. Within moments, they gain full access to its global data, exposing the vast intelligence network that had been secretly monitoring international communications. Back in the forest, Sam and Will continue moving cautiously until they approach a rural house. Nearby, they notice several local young men with a car parked outside. Desperate for transportation, they attempt to steal the vehicle and successfully start the engine. However, the sound alerts the young men, who quickly surround them. President Will attempts to identify himself and references his acting career fame, but the locals fail to recognize him and instead demand his expensive watch.
I think you should give him the watch.
This is kicked, man. Read the room.
When he refuses, a physical fight breaks out, and despite exhaustion, Sam and Will work together and overpower the group. Just as the situation escalates, the house owner arrives holding a gun and fires a warning shot that scares the young men away. She questions Sam and Will about their intentions. After hearing that they need to reach Warsaw across the border, she decides to help them.
Where you go?
Across the border.
Okay. I take you.
Later, the woman drives them forward in her truck filled with sheep, concealing them from potential threats. During the journey, tension between the two leaders slowly fades, replaced by mutual respect. As they continue their journey, President Will reflects on his past life as a global movie star and explains that traveling around the world for film promotions allowed him to connect with different people, and now as president, he hopes to reduce the distance between nations. Prime Minister Sam listens quietly, and both leaders share a moment of sadness as they think about the loyal agents who sacrificed their lives during the attack on Air Force One.
Or my security detail.
When they reach the border checkpoint, armed officers stop the truck for inspection. Sam and Will quickly hide beneath the sheep in the back while officers search the vehicle. The situation becomes tense as the officers question the woman about the papers, but to resolve the matter, she cleverly bribes them by offering one of her sheep. The officers accept the unusual payment without hesitation and allow the truck to pass. Hidden beneath the animals, Sam and Will are shocked by how easily the system can be manipulated. After safely crossing the border, the woman eventually drops them off on the outskirts of Warsaw. Will attempts to reward her with his watch, but she refuses after acknowledging Will as the American president, wishes them luck, and drives away. Soon, they reach a secure house where surveillance cameras capture their arrival. A CIA agent named Marty Comer monitors the footage and is stunned to see that both leaders are alive. At the same time, Arthur discovers through the hacked Echelon system that Sam and Will survived the crash. Enraged, Victor orders his men to eliminate them immediately.
Let's go!
Inside the safe house, Marty guides them into a hidden, secure room and provides a detailed update on the global crisis. Echelon has been fully compromised, and its classified intelligence data has been leaked to the public. The exposure reveals that multiple nations have secretly interfered in each other's elections and manipulated political systems for years. The revelations ignite international outrage, causing alliances to weaken and trust to collapse. NATO now stands on the edge of internal conflict, with member countries blaming one another. Suddenly, emergency alarm sirens throughout the building, signaling an incoming threat. Surveillance systems reveal that attackers have surrounded the location. Marty quickly arms the two leaders and instructs them to hide while he confronts the attackers. Unknown to the attackers, Marty has strategically placed traps throughout the house.
But he's America's nutter.
As the attackers plant explosives, Marty manages to redirect the blasts back toward them. Watching through security monitors, Sam and Will are impressed by Marty's tactical speed. However, one of the attackers identifies Marty's surveillance system and destroys the cameras, destroying his advantage. A fierce gunfight erupts inside the building. Marty urges Sam and Will to escape while he holds off the attackers. Reluctantly, they retreat, hearing continuous gunfire behind them, knowing Marty is still fighting. The attackers pursue them through the building, but Sam and Will manage to evade capture temporarily by using an elevator to confuse their pursuers. As they reach the lower level, attackers corner them once again. Just when escape seems impossible, a car suddenly crashes into the attackers from behind, knocking them aside. Someone leaps from the moving vehicle before it collides into the house. To their shock, the woman is Noel, the MI6 agent presumed dead in Spain. Sam immediately recognizes her, and she explains that during the Spain attack, she survived because she was wearing a bulletproof vest. Since then, she has been tracking attackers across multiple countries until she located this hideout. After ensuring Sam and Will are all right, she detonates the damaged car to eliminate remaining threats, and the three of them escape together. While fleeing the area, Noel finally reveals the deeper truth about Victor's motive. Years earlier, Victor's son had initiated the Pebble Bed project. However, to complete the research, he requested a reactor from his father. When NATO intelligence discovered this request, they suspected he was secretly building a nuclear weapon, and acting on that suspicion, NATO arranged for his assassination. The killing devastated Victor and filled him with hatred. Now, driven by revenge, Victor seeks to dismantle NATO entirely and punish the alliance he blames for his son's death. As they move through the city, President Will reflects on everything they have learned and admits that the death of Victor's son may have been a terrible mistake by NATO. However, Noel firmly corrects that assumption and clarifies that Victor's son died because of Victor's long history of criminal activities and dangerous connections. At the same time, Will begins to grow suspicious of Quincy, remembering that Quincy strongly encouraged Sam to board Air Force One before the attack. Sam doubts first, but quietly agrees that Quincy's involvement now seems questionable. Noel urges them to stop speculating and focus on survival, leading them into a building and informs them that from this moment forward, protecting them is her mission, as she is supposed to take them to the safest location on the continent. Without wasting time, the three of them run through the station and jump onto a moving train just before it leaves the platform. As the train speeds away into the night, Arthur detects through the hacked echelon system that they have boarded it, but hides it from Victor. The next morning, inside the train compartment, Sam wakes up and notices Noel is standing there. He quietly speaks with Noel and expresses regret for leaving her behind in the past. It becomes clear that they once shared a romantic relationship. Noel never supported Sam's decision to enter politics, believing that power would change him and place him in constant danger. After their quiet conversation, Noel leaves to get breakfast. Will, who has overheard much of it, questions Sam about their history. Sam explains that they served together in the military before falling in love, but different paths eventually separated them. Sam had believed that becoming prime minister would allow him to build a safer world for her, but she could not accept that path.
Because I wanted to build a better world for her and I to go.
The most romantic goddamn thing I've ever heard.
Meanwhile, Arthur tracks the train with a group of attackers and prepares to intercept it. But Arthur shoots one of his own men, and before dying, the man manages to shoot Arthur and wound him badly. Sam, Will, and Noel capture Arthur, who explains that he once lived an ordinary life but was kidnapped by Victor and forced to work for him.
Then how do we find out who this insider is?
Shoot, Rados. You have to end this.
Victor has already killed countless people and is determined to destroy NATO completely. Arthur also reveals that Victor is being supported by a powerful insider within their own circle, though he does not know the identity. He informs them that answers can be found through a specialized program he designed in 12 Lavaska Street in Zadar. Before dying from his injuries, Arthur writes an access code to his program on Will's hand and urges them to jump from the train because enemies are waiting at the next station. After a brief but intense debate, Sam, Will, and Noel leap from the moving train and escape into the countryside. Elsewhere, Vice President Elizabeth attends a tense meeting with global leaders and requests unified support for America. One by one, leaders reject her appeal and accuse America of secretly spying on them while pretending to be a trusted ally. Trust collapses further, and several nations prepare to withdraw from NATO, leaving America isolated. That night, Sam, Will, and Noel reach Zadar, the location Arthur described. They enter an old building and climb to the 5th floor, initially finding nothing. For a moment, they fear Arthur deceived them.
There's nothing here.
I'm that lying son of a bitch.
Led us to a dead end.
Then Noel discovers a concealed vault containing a powerful program inside it. At the same time, Victor's attackers storm the building, and Sam stays behind to fight them, while Will and Noel begin accessing the program. Armed attackers rush up the stairwell, and chaos erupts. In the confusion, Sam realizes one grenade in the weapons bag has already lost its pin. Acting instantly, he throws the entire bag down the stairs, causing a massive explosion destroys the stairwell, but more enemies continue advancing. As Will and Noel scan the program data, they uncover that Victor's insider is Simone, Will's own trusted assistant, who has secretly communicated with Victor for 18 months. Meanwhile, Sam continues fighting the mercenaries and eliminates several of them with grenades. Suddenly, a helicopter arrives above and lowers a cable, lifting the program vault out of the building. Sam attempts to stop this, grabs the rope in an attempt to stop it, but is pulled upward. Moments later, Victor fires a rocket launcher, destroying the building in a massive explosion. From a nearby rooftop, Will and Noel watch in horror as flames consume the structure, believing Sam has been killed. After the destruction of the building, Victor contacts his mysterious superior to report the failed mission. However, he realizes that his boss has already ordered attackers to eliminate him for failing to secure the program and kill the leaders. Understanding that he has been betrayed and marked for death, Victor turns ruthless and kills the attackers without hesitation. He decides that instead of serving anyone, he will now take revenge on the boss who tried to sacrifice him. The next morning, final preparations for the NATO meeting are underway as global tensions remain dangerously high. Vice President Elizabeth continues positioning herself as the steady authority in America. Unexpectedly, she receives a call from President Will, who is very much alive, and instructs her to arrange transportation for him and warns her to stay away from Simone, claiming that Simone is the traitor. Elizabeth agrees and sends a vehicle to collect them. However, when Will and Noel step inside the car, they immediately notice something suspicious. A man is sitting inside, armed and ready, and in that moment, the truth becomes clear. Will deduces that the real mastermind behind this plan is not Simone, but Elizabeth herself. She has been secretly using Simone's phone to mislead investigators and manipulate communications. Her true plan was to eliminate Will and take full control of the presidency during the global crisis. As the car speeds forward, Will and Noel attack the man, and a violent struggle erupts inside the moving vehicle. Within minutes, additional attackers surround them and begin their assault. Just when escape seems impossible, a fire brigade truck suddenly crashes into the attacker's vehicle and lifts it aside. The driver of the truck is revealed to be Sam, alive and determined. He jumps into Will's car, and a brief flashback shows that he survived the earlier mess by leaping down a stairwell moments before the rocket strike destroyed the building. Together, the three of them overpower the man and throw him out of the car. Noel embraces Sam with relief, but quickly refocuses on their mission, urging them to reach the NATO summit immediately. Sam takes control of the vehicle and drives toward the meeting location. The attackers fire a rocket launcher at their car, setting it ablaze. Despite the flames and damage, the reinforced and bulletproof design protects them long enough to reach the summit safely. Inside the NATO conference hall, several nations are already preparing to withdraw from the alliance, convinced that America has secretly interfered in their internal affairs. At that critical moment, Will and Sam enter the hall, alive and united. They address the leaders firmly and emphasize that breaking the alliance will only strengthen their enemies. They argue that cooperation is essential in a world facing complex threats, and that unity is the only path forward.
On behalf of the United Kingdom and the United States of America, we need NATO. We need partnerships. The real enemies we face.
There it is.
They also expose Elizabeth's selfish ambition, explaining that leaders who prioritize personal gain over global stability create chaos rather than security. Elizabeth responds with insults, mocking Will's background as an actor and questioning his competence. Will remains calm and defends the people who elected him, insisting that leadership is about responsibility. However, Elizabeth continues arguing. Just then, Victor appears inside the summit building, and in a swift act of revenge, he kills Elizabeth for betraying him. Immediately, his attackers launch a coordinated attack, setting off explosions and engaging security forces in a massive firefight. However, Noel confronts Victor directly while Sam and Will fight through waves of attackers. A man attempts to overpower Noel, but she counters fiercely and defeats him. Meanwhile, a giant attacker assaults Sam and Will, severely injuring them at first. Working together, they manage to overpower and eliminate him. Sam then assists security forces by taking down additional attackers. Victor flees to the rooftop and attempts to escape by helicopter. Sam encourages Will to act boldly, reminding him of the heroic instincts he once portrayed on screen. As Sam advances, Victor wounds him, and in a final decisive moment, Will lifts a heavy statue and hurls it into the helicopter's spinning blades. The aircraft loses control and crashes, killing Victor instantly, and the threat is finally over.
Everything happens for a reason.
In the aftermath, NATO members reconsider their decision and ultimately reunite, inspired by the cooperation between Will and Sam. 2 months later, peace begins to stabilize as Sam and Will now become good friends, and Sam also rebuilds his relationship with Noel.